folks, welcome to another edition of Technical Tips with Data Insights at Mogo Interactive. My name is Ben and I'll be your host today. And today I'm going to show you how to set up Google Analytics with Google Tag Manager. So we're going to start with Google Tag Manager, and the setup of creating an account probably takes all but 30 seconds. So I assume you can figure that out. It's very easy to do. You just go to google.com/analytics, select Google Tag Manager from the drop-down. Now, once you set up your account, we'll walk you through the steps of setting up your container, and then we'll walk you through the steps of setting up your trigger and deploying your Google Analytics tag. And I'll talk about some of the best practices, next steps that you'll want to take after you've deployed your tag. So when you first create your container in Google Analytics, and I'll walk you through that process just here in a minute, you're going to have to create a container, and then the GTM container code will pop up. Well, a lot of times you're not going to grab that code immediately. So what I wanted to make sure is that you know where to go and get that code if for whatever reason you need to kind of finish this task at a later time. You simply just go to the admin panel and you select Install Google Tag Manager. And then you'll see this. And it's important to note that this code is broken up into two different text boxes. That's because the code actually goes into two different places on your website pages. The first block is going to go into the head. So it says, paste this code as early as possible right below the head of the page. Additionally, paste this code immediately after the body tag. So really easy, simple stuff to do. So why don't we do that right now? And I'm actually going to create a new container so you can see this process, and you can see we have a number of containers in here because we're an agency and we have access to all of our clients' Google Tag Manager's account. So I'm just going to call this Ben's GTM test. And I like to share the data with Google because it does help them improve their products and technology. And it's going to go onto our agency's website. It's going to be web unless you're deploying this in a iOS app or an Android app. So almost everyone out there that we're talking to is going to use web. We'll hit create, look at the terms of service. I've already reviewed it, so we'll say yes. All right, so what's going to happen next is the container code is actually going to pop up. You can grab it here, obviously. It's not like the code that's in the admin panel is any different, but I'm going to show you where you can go get that code again if you need to go back and find it. So admin, and we go down to the little gear for install Google Tag Manager, and super easy. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to grab this first block of code, and I'm going to go over to our HubSpot account. They manage our CMS for our website, so that's where I'm going to drop this in. So this code will be deployed on every single tag or every single page. And here's the site header. So I'm going to drop that in, go back over here, and then now we can see paste this code immediately after the opening body tag. All right, so we'll do that as well. Okay. And I'll hit save so these changes push through and publish to the website. So next what you're going to want to do is you are going to want to create a constant variable in Google Tag Manager that stores your Google Analytics tracking ID. And so the reason that we create this variable, it's so that when you're creating additional tags in Google Analytics, which I hope you do, that you don't always have to jump back into Google Analytics to see what your tracking ID is. It's stored inside of Google Tag Manager as a constant variable, so it never changes. It's always going to house that value. So let's see where we can go and get that. If you're on the reporting screen, once you're in the property that you want to be in, which we already are, I'm going to go to admin. I'm going to go to property settings, and we're just going to copy and paste this tracking ID right here, and we're going to go back into Google Tag Manager. We're going to go to our workspace and just make sure that I'm in the right one here. I'm sorry. Where is it? Oh, there it is. I went right by it. Ben's test container. You'll go to variables. You want to go down to user defined variables. We can see because this is a new container, there's nothing down here right now. We'll click new. And you can call it something like Google Analytics ID. I just tend to call mine GA ID. So we'll put the name, we'll click on the little pencil, and we're going to find constant variable under utilities. And all I'm going to do is paste that code in here and save it. So now whenever I need to reference the Google Analytics tracking code, I can just reference that variable named GAID. So some of the things that we are going to cover today, and we've already done the first one, how to store your GA tracking ID in a custom variable in GTM. Next, we're going to create the Google Analytics tag in GTM, and you'll see why we created that variable here in just a second. Then we will deploy our tag on all pages so that our Google Analytics tag will fire on every web page on the site. We'll show you how to preview your tag to ensure that it's working. Then you'll want to publish your tag. And then ultimately, you are going to confirm that your tags are on all pages. And we are going to monitor Google Analytics once the tag is deployed. I would say, you might want to log in the next day, maybe monitoring this for the next week. What you're trying to do once this tag is successfully deployed is to ensure what you're seeing tracked inside of Google Analytics is around what you would expect to see in terms of traffic. Now, maybe you have no idea what your traffic is, but if you are migrating from another analytics platform and maybe you have 10,000 sessions a month, if you opened up your Google Analytics and after a week you only had 20 sessions, you would know something is wrong. Or if you had 100,000 sessions in a week, you would know something's wrong. So you always want to come back and make sure that you kind of want to do a sniff test to make sure that everything looks right. Great. Alrighty, so next I'm going to show you how to set up your tag, your Google Analytics tag in Google Tag Manager. You're going to see why that constant variable comes into play and how it can really kind of help you when you're setting up tags in Google Tag Manager. We're going to apply a trigger to your tag so you can begin deploying your Google Analytics tag and tracking your users in Google Analytics. We're going to show you how to preview your tag to ensure that it's actually working. We'll show you how to publish your tag. And then I'll show you an easy way to confirm that your tags are on all website pages. And the one thing that I would recommend once you see your tag deployed and you confirmed it's live, you're going to want to check Google Analytics probably over the next week just to kind of do a sniff test, just to see, does the data that you see in Google Analytics line up with what you would expect? If you're coming from another analytics solution maybe and you know that you get like 100,000 sessions per month, and then in that first week in Google Analytics you're only seeing 20 sessions, we know something is wrong there, right? Or maybe you see 1 million sessions. So we just want to come back and make sure, take a look at the data and just make sure it kind of lines up with what we would expect. Perfect. So let's go into Google Tag Manager. We're going to go to our workspace, and I'm in preview mode right now. I'm going to leave it really quick. I'm going to show you how to turn it on and why it's such a valuable tool. So before we do any of this, I just want to show you one thing. So you can come over here, hit the little drop down next to publish, hit preview. Now once you hit preview, we should see that orange bar pop up again. That tells us that we're in preview mode. Now previewing workspace. So when we go to our website and we hit refresh, we'll see this Google Tag Manager toolbar pop up. And by default, it's set to tags. We can pull this up. And we can see that there are no tags in this container. So our GTM container is not firing any tags at this time. So we need to go do that. And then I can show you how you can preview this again to see your Google Analytics tag firing. All right, so go to your workspace and on the sidebar, click tags and click new tag. And we will call this GA page views. I like to name all of my GA tags starting with GA. It makes them super easy to identify, and page views is just something that we've been using for a long time. to indicate that this particular tag is fired on all pages. All right, so next we can go to tag configuration. We'll click on that. And we'll go to Universal Analytics. We're assuming that you're on Universal Analytics. If you're not, please migrate over to that as soon as possible. And so here's the portion where you can copy and paste that tracking ID in here, but because we have saved this as a constant variable, GAID, we can just select that, and now that tracking code is automatically inserted in there. Super easy. The track type by default is page view. You do have these other tracking events once you get a little bit more sophisticated in Google Analytics, but for now we're going to select page view. And now we need to go to triggering. And so the trigger determines when this particular tag is going to fire. And we can see, and there's a bunch of other ones here, but the all pages is right there. We can select it. Now it's important to note, anytime your GTM container code is on a website, it's going to always fire this Universal Analytics tag. If you wanted to create something that had some constraints, maybe you only want to fire it on certain subdomains or pages containing a certain string, you can certainly do that. You can also add exceptions as well. So maybe you have dev pages that you don't want this tag to fire on. So those are things you're definitely going to want to consider. For our setup here, we assume that your GTM container code is only going on a single website, such as mysite.com, and that every single web page that GTM container code is on, you want the Universal Analytics tag to fire as well. So just some things that you'll want to be aware of. Now we are going to click Save. And actually, to push these changes live, which we're not going to do yet, you would need to click Publish. Now, I want to go see if this tag is actually firing, and we can do that because we're in preview mode. But because we've made a change since preview mode has been open, we're going to need to go back here and click Refresh. And so we did that. And so now when we come back here and we refresh our page, I'm expecting to see that Google Analytics page view tag pops up, and indeed it does. So tags fired on this page, GA page views. You can click this open, and you can see that, I'm scrolling in the wrong area here, you can see that the account lines up with our variable. You can open this up to see other parameters passed in there. Now, the other thing that I would recommend doing, but I'm not going to do here, is because we've been collecting data for a while on our Google Analytics account, is I would probably go into real-time reports. So let me show you where you can do that. And you should start to see your data being tracked immediately. So it looks like right now I'm the only user on the website. At least that's what it's showing. And that's because this has not been pushed live at this time. It's only in preview mode. Alrighty, so now that we know it's tracking as we would expect, I'm gonna publish this. And the other thing I'm gonna do, so I don't keep getting that little GTM bar popping up, is I will go back to my workspace. I'm going to leave preview mode. So now when you come back to this website and we hit refresh, we should not get the Google Tag Manager bar popping up at the bottom. And we do not. Great. So we've published our tag. The next thing that you're going to want to do is you're going to want to confirm that your tag is on all pages. You've probably assumed that's the case. I always recommend double checking everything just to ensure that you are doing what you think you're doing. All right, so there's a lot of great free tools out there. There's a website called gachecker.com. It's totally free. It will check up to 10,000 pages on your website. So you'll just enter your website in here. And I like to leave the default settings in here. So URL parameter skip, and then we definitely want to include subdomains. And that would be something like, I don't know, blog.mogointeractive.com. So this is actually a pretty fast tool. And because this website's not very big, we get our results pretty fast. And by default, it's selected on analytics. And what you want to see are little check marks here. You're going, gee, well, why are these X's? Well, it's because, and I wish they told you this, we're deploying our Google Analytics tag from Tag Manager. And so we can go to Tag Manager instead, and indeed, we start to see the checks that we want to see. And so what you want to see is that you have a check for Google Tag Manager on every single one of your pages, as well as one for Google Analytics GTM. You can, of course, export this via CSV. That's what I would probably do just to ensure that everything is in there. And this is a great tool to ensure that your tags are on every single website page. Now, what it doesn't do is ensure that it's the right tracking tag. So a lot of times people may have multiple GTM containers on their website. This has no way of determining if it's the right one. There's another tool out there that we tend to use. It has a very affordable, starting at $7 a month, and you could even just use this one time. And they do offer some basic services as well, but what I like about this one is it will actually reference the container ID. Remember this? So let's take a look at this. What you see up here, GTM, T9, P2, blah, 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 blah. And it will also reference the Google Analytics tracking ID as well. Awesome. And then, as I mentioned before, it's probably a good practice to monitor your Google Analytics for the next week or so, just to make sure what you're seeing in there lines up with what you would expect. So this is a really great first step, and that's what it is. It's a first step to get up and running in Google Analytics. Some of the other things that I would recommend, data governance is a big, big, big one. A lot of people don't realize this. Google Analytics makes it sound like what I just showed you is basically all you need to do to get up and running. That's kind of true. But if you want to ensure that your data is accurate, some of the other things that I would strongly encourage you to do is to exclude your internal traffic, excluding specific IP addresses, possibly ISPs. If you have subdomains, like I said earlier, if you have something like blog.mysite.com or tickets.mysite.com, you need to set up referral exclusions, because as somebody moves from one subdomain to another or from one domain to another, Google Analytics starts double counting those users, and it makes it, until you set up cross-domain and subdomain tracking, you can't do things like page value, or it gets broken. Goal funnels can be broken if they get moved from one domain to another, so that's another really important one. Another one is consolidating your URLs. Unfortunately, when a lot of people build websites, they will have one version that has uppercase letters and another version that doesn't. Well, Google Analytics is case sensitive, and it will double count or triple count those pages depending on how many different iterations there are of that given page. So that's another one that you can do. You can apply a lowercase filter to force everything to lowercase. Next thing that I would recommend is tagging all of your marketing campaigns, whether that's paid or organic, including email, with GA's UTM link builder. And then the last thing, if you have site search, I would strongly recommend that you set up Google's site search tracking. There's a lot of really valuable stuff that can be found in there. Some other items that you're going to want to do if you are running AdWords, link that with Google Analytics. It's super easy to do. If you're not on Search Console, set up a Google Search Console account ASAP. Link it with Google Analytics. There's a lot of really great diagnostic data that comes in via Search Console, as well a lot of insights and data that comes in for organic search keywords, who's linking to your website. And then a super easy one that you can do to finish this all off is to enable the demographics and interest reports. That's simply as easy as flicking on a switch and agreeing to the terms of service around that, and you'll start to track those immediately. So thank you for joining us with another edition of Tech Tips, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.